Now when we see the peculiarities of this pelvic diaphragm, it is a gutter shaped diaphragm, slopes downward and forward and towards the anterior part of the pelvic outlet. And the most of the fibers of the ischio-coccygeus muscle and the some part of the ilio-coccygeus muscle, they are going to degenerate, and that's why the main support of the pelvic viscera, it is shouldered by the pubo-coccygeus only. Now let's see the openings which are present within the pelvic diaphragm. There are two normal openings are present within this pelvic diaphragm, and the first opening is the most anteriorly situated opening, and this opening, it is called as the urogenital hiatus. This urogenital hiatus, which is situated anterior to the anterior fibers of the pubococcygeus muscle, and this hiatus which permits the passage of the urethra and vagina in case of female, while in case of male only urethra passes through this hiatus, and that's why the name is urogenital hiatus. Below the pelvic diaphragm, this urogenital hiatus, it is supported by one additional diaphragm, and that is the urogenital diaphragm, which we have already discussed in our previous video lecture series. The second normal hiatus, which is present within the pelvic diaphragm, is situated between the perineal body in front and the anococcygeal raphe behind, and through this opening or hiatus, the anal canal or the lower part of the rectum is going to pass, and that's why this hiatus, it is called as the hiatus rectalis. One more opening is occasionally present, and this is the abnormal opening, and this abnormal opening is present when the levator ani muscle which fails to arise from the obturator fascia. So it may be present somewhere here, and this opening, it is called as the hiatus of the squabs. So this hiatus of the squab, it is the gap present between the obturator fascia and the tendinous arch of the pelvic fascia, and sometimes the pelvic viscera may herniate into the corresponding ischiorectal fossa through this hiatus of the squab. So these are the three openings which are present within the pelvic diaphragm. Now let's see the function of the pelvic diaphragm. This pelvic diaphragm is responsible to provide the support to the pelvic viscera, and it is responsible for counteracting the downward thrust of the diaphragm during increased intra-abdominal pressure. This pelvic diaphragm, it is also responsible for the elevating the prostate by its anterior fibers, and that's why they act as the levator prostatae also. In female, the anterior fiber constrict the vagina, and that's why they act as the sphincter vaginae also. This pelvic diaphragm, it is also helpful in the action of the defecation or the parturition. During the defecation, the puborectal sling, which is going to be formed by the puborectalis muscle, it is going to relax, and that's why the rectum and the anal canal forms a straight tube, and the act of the defecation, it occurs. In case of parturition, the puborectal sling upon which fetal head rests allows the forward rotation of the head into the lower part of the birth canal, and that's why it is responsible for helping in the parturition. In case of the micturition, the pubococcygeus muscle, it gets relaxed because of the increase in the intra-abdominal pressure, and the bladder neck, it descends, and thus descent stimulates the contraction of the detrusal muscle, and this will lead to the micturition. So all these are the functions of the pelvic diaphragm. Now let's talk about the evolution of the pelvic diaphragm. As we already know that we are derived from the quadrupeds animals, and in case of the quadrupeds, this pelvic diaphragm, instead of arising from the pelvic cavity, it is going to arise from the pelvic inlet. So we can say in case of the quadrupeds, this pelvic diaphragm muscles, they are going to arise little bit higher than in case of the man, and this pelvic diaphragm muscle was mainly meant for the movement of the tail of the animal, and this pelvic diaphragm muscles in case of the quadrupeds, and they are going to insert over the lower part of the caudal vertebrae. So with the vertebral column, the tail is going to continue, and because of the attachment of this pelvic diaphragm with the lower part of the vertebral column, the movement of the tail occur. In case of the contraction of the pubococcygeus muscle, and this is the pubococcygeus muscle, it will lead to the movement of the tail forward, and the animal can take the tail between their two hind legs, while the contraction of the iliococcygeus as well as ischio-coccygeus, this will lead to the movement of the tail on the side to side by the quadrupeds. So because of the side to side movement provided to the tail by this iliococcygeus and the ischio-coccygeus muscle, they are collectively called as agitator chordae. Now with the upright posture, the human being, they shift their attachment of the pelvic diaphragm from pelvic inlet to the pelvic cavity, where it is going to attach with the white line of the pelvic fascia, or we can say tendinous arch over the obturator fascia. And with this movement, along with the loss of the tail in case of the human being, this pelvic floor muscles, they are mainly responsible for the support of the viscera. Because of the gravity, the viscera enter into the pelvic cavity, and thus this pubococcygeus and iliococcygeus, they are collectively called as the levator ani, and the ischio-coccygeus muscle, they remains as the coccygeus itself.